Welcome. Today I'm sitting down with Vella Karman, who is a second year apprentice here at the company. So she has changed so much over the past 2 years, which is one of my favorite things to see. And we're going to hear all about it today, as well as a really cool new project that she has been working on. So my name is Brad Pauquette. Today I'm sitting down with Vella Karman, and this is the company podcast. Vella Karman, welcome to the company podcast. This is your first podcast episode with me, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so you are in your second year of your full-time apprenticeship here at the company, and you came all the way from Little Rock, Arkansas, which is a super long way.
It's only like 14-hour drive, 12, something like that.
Yeah, only 12 or 14 hours in the car, which you do by yourself on occasion. But I'm so glad that you came. It's been such an honor to get to know you and get to work with you over the past 2 years. But they don't know you yet. So who are you, Vella Karman? Tell us all about yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, you already stole my thunder, my name.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
phone always tries to autocorrect it to Bella.
Yeah.
So I try to send like a consoling message, but then I get your name wrong in the text message every time, thanks to autocorrect.
Yeah. You also did that on an Instagram comment recently.
Well, I did that on purpose because your Instagram post was about getting people's names wrong.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I just thought that was that happening again.
Well, history would give you that pretense to believe that. So.
Yeah. So I am Vella Karman, and I love God. I love stories. I love people. I've been here for a little bit at this point. It's been lots of fun. It's been scary. I have started like a website and writing blog articles every week, which is pretty amazing since I'm not great at consistency.
Well, you are now.
Yeah, wasn't great at consistency.
Cool. Yeah. And you are one of our apprentices that came straight from high school, which not all of our apprentices are. Most of our apprentices tend to be in like the 18 to 25 or so range. But some of them are like graduate from high school, come here sort of as a college alternative. So this is your first time like living outside of your parents' house and things like that. Talk to our audience about that transition. Like you're 18 years old, just graduated high school, you're homeschooled, and you're thinking about coming to the company. What's that like?
Yeah, it was scary. I remember when I came up here and visited. Well, actually, I should start before that. So I got my acceptance letter the week before I turned 18.
Okay.
A week to the day. And so I didn't tell anyone. I thought, okay, how often do you get the chance to wait and surprise people on your 18th birthday that you got into this program that only accepts 12 students a year? And I mean, I had a lot of people who were like, you're 100% going to get in. And I was like, have you looked at the numbers, guys? That's a lot of pressure. So I got in and I didn't tell anyone. And I told my family and my friends at my 18th birthday party, which was pretty small. And then it kind of hit me, like I was scared.
Yeah.
I remember we went stargazing because that's what I wanted to do. And I was just like lying there looking up the sky. And I told my friends I loved missionary stories as a kid. And especially, I'm blanking on his name. I want to say his first name starts with a D and his last name is Miller.
Okay.
But he started an orphanage in London, I believe, somewhere in England.
Are you talking about Mueller? Robert Mueller?
It's Robert?
I don't quote me on that. I think so. Mueller. It's definitely Mueller, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. George,
yeah, thank you.
George Mueller.
Thanks, Bella.
George Mueller, loved missionary stories about him, and that classic story of he has the kids sit down to eat and praise thank you for the food when they literally have none in the house.
Yeah.
And I told my friends, if I was at the point of not knowing where my next meal was going to come from, I would probably just go read a book and try to forget that I needed to eat instead of being like George Mueller. And that scared me because financially it didn't make sense for me to come up here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have a reliable mode of transportation. And I worked through high school. I think I got my first job when I was like 12. But even though I saved most of that, it's still like it's a big jump to
Yeah,
go.
absolutely.
So yeah, most of my experience was this is terrifying. Um, and then I came up here and visited and I loved it, but I was like, God, do you really is this now? And
That's right, because I think I had said, because you were uncertain, and I think I had said you can come this year, or I'm going to go ahead and, like, if you want to come next year instead, I kind of give you the go ahead on that, right?
you
So you were
did.
debating which year you were going to come.
Yeah, I was. And every time I asked God, I got an answer that didn't seem to be related. So it was like I asked and it was like, trust me
Mhm.
and trust the people around you. I was like, okay, cool, but I wanted you to answer the question. And I came up here thinking, okay, I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to gather information while I'm here. I actually had an interview at a job, but the while I was driving up here was when you and Melissa messaged to say, hey, by the way, we're actually moving down to Cambridge next year.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, don't need to do a job interview in Zanesville anymore. And so I told myself just information gathering. But then I found myself asking again. And that time I felt like God was saying, like, know me, know the people around you.
Mm.
And I was frustrated that he didn't answer the question I asked. When it suddenly clicked, at I was at the old location
Yeah.
and I'd gone to the bathroom out in the hallway and I was just praying about it because I had a few minutes to myself. And I realized that trust and know was what God wanted me to do with this next season of my life. And so then the question was, where could I do that better?
Yeah. Wow.
So coming out here where it didn't make sense and it was scary and it was a big jump was the place. So I made the decision. I told you guys before I left that first day.
Hmm.
And then I told my parents when I got in the car and they were like, yeah, we figured. And then I did not sleep that night pretty much. I put in like my deposit, I think the next day, and then I went home and a tornado devastated my whole neighborhood.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it was a week after.
Hmm.
And so I don't know, it was a whole jumble of things.
Yeah. No, and I've forgotten so many parts of that story. So we did move to Cambridge 2 years ago. And when you visited, I think we had just bought the house.
So you
And
hadn't actually.
okay,
You
but you
hadn't
came
bought
and
it
looked
yet.
at it with us though, right?
Yeah. So apparently you announced it like around the same time.
Hmm.
I think you had waited to tell me because you wanted to tell the apprentices first.
Okay.
So I think you announced it to them, and that was when I first met Allie and Tirza and Lindsay. Is I met you and Melissa at the school, but nobody was there because it was a Wednesday,
Okay.
which I didn't know about, and I was like, "You tricked." It says on the website, 40 hours a week
Yeah.
on location. And so then we drove up here and we met you guys for the first walkthrough for all the apprentices of the house.
Yeah.
And you weren't under contract yet, or maybe you were just starting to be under contract. And so that was when I met them was when they were seeing the new schoolhouse, which was kind of an awkward meeting.
I bet. Yeah. And the schoolhouse at that time had like holes in the floor and
Yeah.
was just like this scary, haunted looking house.
Yeah. And I had like my younger sister with me and my parents.
Yeah.
But I remember we were walking and they were making comments among themselves. And I was just kind of like, how do I break into this? And so I pretty much didn't talk to any of them until we got to the third floor, which took a while because it's a big house.
It's a big house. Yeah.
And then I guess I started talking with Lindsay about swing dancing because I'd been stalking them online, of course.
Right. As one stalks the apprentices. I
Yeah,
bet somebody listening has been stalking you
that's
online. See what your life is like.
that's probably true.
Yeah.
So I just want to for a second say, hello, stalker. I see you. I care about you. God's got your life under control.
So you were able to break the ice and get to know everybody. And, I know that provision, financial, when we say provision, that's like Christian code for money, right?
Yeah.
The money aspect is definitely a challenge for a lot of people that want to come to the apprenticeship. And so we always encourage people to like save as much money as you can before you come to help defray the cost. But what has your experience been like just when it comes to money? as an apprentice, having to pay your own bills. So all of our apprentices, we don't provide housing. That's often a confusion point for a lot of people.
Mm.
You don't live in the house here. You get your own housing on your own. And so you end up paying your own bills, and also you pay tuition here and things like that. What has that money situation been like for you? And of course, you don't have to divulge private stuff, but just the heart level part of it. What's it like?
Yeah. I mean, I personally am not at all like, I can't tell you numbers, but just to make it easier since the heart level is more applicable to everybody. Yeah, I mean, kind of my continued thing is just gonna be like it was scary.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that I was scared and that I came here and then I was like fearless. But kind of my story is more I was scared, but I was gonna do it anyway, and I came here and I'm still scared and I'm still doing it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still scared. I still show up every day. I actually, that's not a joke. I mean that, you know? And
Yeah.
I think like if we are on mission, we are challenging ourselves to grow and move forward in what God has called us into. That's the life, right? Is
Yeah.
like, what little scary thing am I going to do today? And just going to muster up and do it and then show up again tomorrow.
Yeah. But for finances, I was definitely my biggest fear was probably what if God doesn't provide?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel like he's calling me to go here and do this thing, but like, what if I'm one of the people who it doesn't work and I have to drop out and I have to come back? And I am really big on not getting into debt. And so I knew and I still know like I would probably starve myself before getting into debt.
Sure. Me
Um
too.
Yeah, and so I very much like I tried to figure out how to consolidate my costs as much as possible, which actually wasn't that hard. Like one of the big things was so I mentioned that I didn't have a reliable transportation. So I was praying about that. I was like, God, can you please provide for me going up here and having transportation? And then I got a call from my grandparents saying, so we bought you a car yesterday. And then, provided for maintenance for the 2 years that I'm here and
Wow.
for car insurance for the 2 years that I'm here.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
And that's
so
unexpected. That's not like something your grandparents
no.
typically do.
I mean, like, they are generous. It was interesting, though, because they both separately were praying and felt God put it on their heart.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Um, so and then the car stick shift, which I hadn't exactly learned how to drive yet. So that was a whole thing, but, literally, I think a month before they called, I'd started really learning stick shift because I wanted to learn before I left the house,
Yeah.
and my dad drives stick shift. So it was a month. I pretty much I've been learning stick shift, and then the day that they got the car to Arkansas, because they bought it in Nevada,
Mhm.
um, was the day that I started a full-time job because I got a 40 hours a week summer job.
Okay. Before you came.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I graduated in May, and then I started 40 hours a week working as a TA at a school for kids with special needs, which was amazing and I loved.
Yeah.
Um,
And I love that about your story, Vella, because
yeah,
like God not only provides financially, but he also gives you really cool experiences in the way that he does that.
yeah,
Like, here, now that you're in Cambridge, you've gotten this job at a local Pan Asian kind of restaurant, which, I know is hard. I don't want to undercut the fact that it's sometimes challenging for you, but also has given you some really cool experience working with international people that I
mhm,
think that you were hungry for.
yeah. And I mean, we had exchange students growing up,
Hmm.
but it's different exchange students than people who immigrate
Yeah.
because exchange students like often are coming just for the last couple of years of high school so that they can go to college here.
Right.
So they're academically minded and they have to normally pass a test about English versus not all of my coworkers really speak English. Um, and I didn't want the job. After I got the job, which happened after like 3 months of not having a job, and I still don't understand the math of how God provided.
Right.
Um, I was like, God, please get me any other job before I even went to my first day. And then my first shift, uh, I threw up. Like, I was getting out of the car to go in, and I threw up all over my car, and then I was like, "Do I still go in?" So I just went in
Yeah.
and I worked my first shift and then I cleaned up the throw up later. Like, it's just outside my comfort zone. But even though stuff like that like sounds crazy hard, God's always been with me. And so I've been able to do it. I'm just
Yeah.
like I don't really have any trick.
Yeah.
And what you said though about the cool experiences, I was really praying about that. I think also when I was coming up to visit,
Mhm.
and the thing that I got was that God is like a father of abundance. He doesn't just provide the bare minimum. Like he likes to provide over and above. And
Yeah.
he's done that. I've watched him do that over and over again.
Yeah. I love that. That's so cool. And of course, it wasn't just the money part that was scary, I'm sure. So let's talk about the writing a little bit.
Yeah.
So as a writer, you were homeschooled. And so you did probably more writing than I did going to public school. I think you had opportunities, like you had written a novel manuscript at some
Yeah.
point,
I
like
wrote
in your
my
youth.
first book for ninth grade English.
Okay, cool. And so you had some experience writing. What were you hoping to get out of your writing here, and what did you get out of your writing here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't remember what I hoped. I do know that I probably had to fill that out as part of the application.
Yeah, that's true. I could probably look back at that.
Yeah, you could probably find it easier than I could. I don't remember. I do think one of the biggest things that I have grown in is consistency
Yeah.
because, and that was probably one of the things I wanted to because I was not good at being consistent.
Mhm.
I would have times where I would like write every single day, but even like hitting 1,000 words like in a week was hard.
Right.
And even
And for
sitting down,
reference, we target at least 1,000 words a day here.
yeah,
But there's a process of like working yourself up to that speed and developing that discipline. But
yeah.
anyways, go ahead.
And I'd actually worked up. I don't remember what I'd worked up to before, but I'd worked up my speed and my discipline, and then I just kind of fell out of the habit.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I was trying to work it up before I got here so that I'd be ready. But then I real that actually is one tip that I would give somebody who's thinking about coming. Don't try to like do all this stuff to prepare yourself because you
Mhm.
don't think you're going to be able to do it because when you get here, you're then going to be prepared. And the trying to prepare yourself sometimes makes it harder for you, like
Yeah.
with my website.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's good. And a great example though of like the difference in writing speed is you've been doing this fantastical summer project, which I want to talk about. Definitely. Let's
Yeah.
make sure we get that in before this is over. But you've been doing this fantastical summer project and all the other apprentices wrote short stories to submit to that. And one of the cool things that I get to see, as you guys are in your second year here, is that writing a short story is like a day project, right?
Mhm.
It's like maybe like one or two writing sessions. You can at least like draft a complete short story of several thousand words. And then, like, as you're trying to get other people to join this, and you're like, hey, just write a short story for this book and submit it, they're like, whoa, like, I don't have 6 months to like write a great short story. And just
Yeah.
the way your perspective changes on things like that,
Mhm.
and things that once seemed like really big projects are now just like, yeah, it's an afternoon. I think that that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that was our first project here was just write a short story. I don't remember. It was pretty much write about anything you want, any way you want, but just like the best work that you can do right now
Yeah.
in a short amount of time. I was like, okay, I got this. I got this. And so I did the project and I still like that story actually.
Which story was it?
It was the Follow the Fox story.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but I was like so proud of that. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever written, and I wrote it in a short amount of time because I was awful at finishing short stories.
Hmm.
I think maybe I finished two before I moved up here, and they were both in eighth grade. And I
Yeah.
tried to write more during high school.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I got up here and I did that story, and I was like, I'm so proud of it. It was hard. And then we did a bunch, and a bunch more, and a bunch more, and a bunch more.
Hmm.
And so now it's like, oh, that's just the normal is to do it in a short amount of time.
Yeah. In fact, as part of your second year curriculum, which was for you, since we customize the program for the apprentices in their second year. For you in December, you were what, like 5 or 6 short stories, just one after the other,
Yeah.
just to try out some different voices and techniques and things, which is so cool. Um, and and now you can write a novel in like how long? How long did you draft the novel that you're revising now?
I think it was a month and a half.
Which is crazy,
Yeah.
right? Like 6 weeks, you can just pound that bad boy out.
I know. I read about those kind of numbers
Yeah,
and I was like, that'd be cool, but that's kind of crazy. And I liked the idea of it,
yeah,
but then whenever I tried to do it, I would be like, this is the only thing that I'm going to do. And then I try to do it like hours and hours a day instead of like one and a half.
right. So like before you came, you'd try to do
Yeah.
something like that. It's just all consuming.
Yeah.
But then here, not only did you draft the novel, but you're also still doing all your regular blogging and social media and like all the different things that you have to do.
And that's like almost easier
Hmm.
because trying to like have your brain do that exact same thing was just counterproductive. I didn't get very much done whenever I tried to do that.
Yeah.
I just did a lot of hyping myself up.
That's cool. No, and of course, what we can't adequately express in an interview like this is not only has your speed increased, but also the quality. Like I've seen
Yeah.
you grow in so many different areas of your writing, and I'm excited for what comes next as you look
Yeah.
forward to finishing the program, and like you'll be publishing this anthology soon, but also other stuff coming down the line. That is super cool. And social media was kind of like a new thing for you. I
Mhm.
mean, not that you weren't like completely unaware of it, but like doing it on a regular basis and doing it at a professional level, I think was challenging for you, wasn't
You're joking. I didn't know what it was. Just kidding.
it?
Um, but yeah, I didn't get on social media until after I was 18.
Yeah.
And I did that partly in the recommendation of my parents. And honestly, I still agree with what they said because I struggled so much with comparison. Like being on social media
Hmm.
earlier would have been hard. I mean, I actually asked if I could, and they were like, no, you can't handle it. So I waited until I was 18 and I did start Instagram slightly before I came up here because like I said earlier, I was trying to like have started my platforms because I don't know, like I was kind of worried you'd be real controlling about it.
Mm.
And so I was like, I want to have like some established of like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And also I sent out my dad built websites. And so I had my website, it existed. And so I sent it out on my graduation announcement for high school, but I didn't really have anything on there. Um, like I think it was one page and it was just like website will launch eventually.
You're right.
And then I think it had to sign up for my email list.
Okay.
Um, and so I was also like, I can't keep waiting this long because there's already people who are like have the link. And so I just need to like get stuff up and put together and stuff, which honestly was kind of just a waste of time. But that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's all right. And you used an interesting word just a second ago that I'd love for you to talk about. I know one of your concerns about coming was what kind of environment you're going to walk into,
Yeah.
right? And especially because we're a religious institution, right? This is a ministry, and so we talk about God, community, stuff like that.
Great stuff.
And it's a valid concern, right? Like you use the
Mhm.
word controlling. Like, is it going to be a controlling environment? What am I getting into? So I want your, in all honesty, like, what has been your experience in that regard?
Yeah. I think that one was a rough one coming up here because so we mentioned that short story that I wrote, the first project. I went and I got feedback on that from somebody. Um
Yeah.
just like to make it the best that I could. That was part of my process.
Yeah.
And then you were like, "So, I don't want you to get feedback from anybody else before you send a story to me." And I was like, "Why?"
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I honestly so this one will be interesting. I actually started a document on my computer, and I think I titled it like "Have My Say," where I just went and like typed out all of my rants of why your reasoning was wrong about something.
Is that
Um,
a long document now?
I don't know. I haven't done it in a minute.
Okay.
Um, because I was like, I knew. that I had problems with like having been controlled by authority before, or
Hmm.
even just like hearing stories about that. And so I was like, I'm gonna like just get it all out
Sure.
and then I can evaluate. So part of your reasoning also was just like that there's not very many people who can give good feedback. Or you can't always get feedback. And so you don't want to be relying on it. And
Yeah.
I was like, you see, you don't understand. I'm part of the Young Writers Workshop, which is
Yeah.
great. It's a great community, but it is very different in the um, just what you can expect to get
Yeah.
out of it. Because it depends on who gives you feedback.
Sure.
Um,
And I think a big part of the reasoning, if I remember the conversation right, is that if there is a problem with your work, I want to be able to see it
yeah.
so that I can help you fix it, right? Like if you have a friend who always corrects your dialogue, and so your dialogue, when it gets to me, always looks great, then
Mhm.
I will never be able to help you address that so that you can, address it in the
Yeah.
beginning, right?
That was the reasoning that actually got through to me.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like, just throughout, there's definitely been different things. Like, sometimes when we're all standing, you're like, have a seat. I'm like, well, why should I sit when I could be standing while you're talking to me?
Yeah.
That, like, I still struggle with sometimes.
Hmm.
But overall, one of the things I was worried about is I had friends who were in a writing program, and it was like you had to, like, progressed from one stage to the next.
Yeah.
You weren't like allowed to start drafting until you'd already planned it out or seen listed or whatever. I mean, we kind of do that, but like it's very clear that the point is so that you can learn and so that you can have good work.
Yeah.
And it's not like this whole like you can't touch drafting this until you have the approval.
Right.
Um, so that was one of the big things that I was worried about.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Um, well, let's talk about Fantastical Summer. So you
Yes.
moved into your second year, and one of the we put together this Fantastical Summer project, and so it's going to be a collection of short stories. Tell us about it, and then I'll talk a little bit more about why we chose that as a project for you.
Yeah. So it is collection of short stories to be a beach read. It's all sorts of stories that are set in this world but with a twist. So, what if God had made it so that there wasn't gravity? And one person then had gravity like come on them as if it was an illness.
Hmm.
This is an actual story
Is
and
that in the
I'm
stack?
excited,
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Um, and so just a collection of stories about that kind of stuff with summer themes, and a really cool cover. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, so it'll be out in May of 2025, and so like I said, in the second year, we customize the program to this specific apprentice. So the first year is a lot of things that kind of everybody needs to know, but then in the second year, we look at each apprentice and through a lot of prayer and with the invitation of the Holy Spirit, we decide, this is what you want your writing life to look like. This is how you see yourself making money with your writing, and this is the kind of work that you want to do, the kind of audiences that you want to reach. And in that second year, we tailor the program to each specific apprentice to help them move towards that goal that they've established for themselves. And so in your case, I think part of what I saw and what I wanted to give you the opportunity for was to develop more business experience in the publishing world. So running an anthology like this has already given you a tremendous amount of experience about how to run like a submission process. Just today, actually, we were doing the final selection on the stories and
Okay.
talking through kind of the ethos of how to do that well and how to make those decisions and things like that. And then moving forward, you'll get experience in developmental editing, helping each of those authors to make their story the best that it can be, which is as much about developing a good relationship with the author that you're working with as it is about what you know about story. Those are different skill sets, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll move through to copy editing and actually producing the book for print and ebook, and then release the book and market the book initially, which is very cool. Which of those things are you most excited to do?
Oh, that's a hard one. Um, at this exact moment, I'm most excited about marketing it because it's far away and because I enjoy that kind of work.
Yeah, that's good.
And we've been talking about it also, so I'm like kind of been brainstorming ideas. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Which of those steps are you most apprehensive about?
Interior designing it.
Yeah.
Technology and I are not exactly friends. Um, yeah, it'll probably be really hard.
Well, what a great opportunity you have then, right? To practice that in an environment where you can ask questions, and if you get it wrong, nothing explodes and you
Yeah,
can just try again, right?
yeah.
All right, cool. Well, Vella, I really appreciate your candor talking with me today. So I kind of see the purpose of this podcast as being a resource to people that are thinking about coming into the apprenticeship. I think it's so helpful to hear from somebody who has really done it, who has really gone through that experience of like, could I do this? Should I do this? And then, eventually saying yes and making that big leap to move to Cambridge, Ohio and do it. And so, do you have any final words that you would want to share with somebody that is in that same position, making a similar decision right now?
Yeah. What I always say is go where God wants you, doing what he wants you to do. Because if he doesn't want you here, there's no point. Um, but if he does, then even if it's incredibly hard, it's going to be good and you're going to love it. And even if you don't know before you apply and you don't know after you apply, you don't know when you're accepted when you visit, or and then you're kind of questioning that decision, just keep seeking God's guidance because he does have a plan and it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's solid. Solid advice, really for anything. That's good advice for all
Yeah.
of life. And so you are Vella Karman. And if somebody is intrigued by you, where can they learn more? How can they connect with you? What should they do right now?
Yeah, you should go open a new tab on your browser and you should type in VELLAKARMAN.com, VellaKarman.com, because my name is spelled weird. And there you can see all of the articles that I write. A lot of those are about belonging, but I also talk about just amazing things that God's done in my life. And I send out emails and try to give people good resources. It's great.
Cool. Yeah. So VellaKarman.com, and we'll include that link in the show notes as well. But you can connect with her as well through there. You'll find links to Instagram, Facebook, wherever you hang out. Vella likely is. So, Vella, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
And so keep your eye out for that Fantastical Summer
Yes.
anthology coming out. Great way to stay in the loop with everything that we do here is to join the newsletter at writers.company. And for this book in particular, that's done in partnership with The Pearl, which is the online magazine that our apprentices run. So you can also go to pearlmag.co and join the newsletter there. And both of those avenues will keep you in the loop for when that release comes out. And if the apprenticeship itself is interesting, of course, you can learn more about that at writers.company. And we really encourage you to apply to that. I always tell people that the application is not a commitment. The application is a conversation starter. Like it's not a long complication, not a long application. But when you fill it out, we're going to get that, and then we're going to reach out to you and begin a conversation. We want you in the right spot. This isn't a high pressure sales environment because, like Vella was saying, if this isn't the right spot for you, if this isn't part of God's call on your life, you're not going to be happy here, and we don't want you here, right? And so our interest is in helping you to make a good decision. And of course, if God is calling you, then we want to encourage you in that. But that application is just a way for us to begin to have that conversation together, to begin to invite, the Lord to speak into that situation together. So take a few minutes to check that out and keep your eye out on all the other events and things that we do here at the company. Specifically, our spring retreat is coming up on May 2nd. So we'd love to see you come out for that. And if you are interested in the apprenticeship, that's really one of the best ways that you can get a hands-on personal feel for what it's actually like here at the company in Cambridge, Ohio. So again, thank you to Vella for joining me. Please take the time to check out her stuff. Give her a follow on those platforms. I think you'll really be rewarded well with the kind of content that she puts out. And until we see you again, bless you and happy writing. Thank you so much for listening today. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and leave us a review. This podcast was produced by Theo Pauquette with help from the company. For help with your podcast, visit writers.company. We'd love to give you a hand.